Hello everyone, this is Kevin Bryant, aka Narlyteeth of Magic and Mirrors, and I wanted to show you some of the things that we've been working on for this new patch for Nelo. So let's get started. The last thing I wanted to show you guys that what's going to be in this next big patch. It's a bit of a radical design decision, but I think a lot of this was just because many people felt like platforming and combat and stealth and finding the little fusion nodes in some of the open areas feels a little bit, I guess, forced in a way. I think they're great for like breaking up, the gameplay, not make the gameplay just, not just make the game just combat and be exhausting, have some things to kind of water cool it down. I do realize that the platforming is insanely tough. I've made ways to make the platforming not so frustrating and a little bit more accessible, but also have something for people who are better at platforming. And it ultimately came down to this, a collectathon type with the game where it's not only scanner nodes, but you're also collecting these various materials and resources for a crafting system for our game. I think the crafting system, while it may first sound a bit arbitrary, I feel like it does fit the narrative of Nelo, where you are surviving on a hostile planet and making use of kind of the resources and stuff that the Nightsithe, whatever they dug up and stuff like that, can be used to craft with keys, utilities, anything that can help you advance. So let me show you a little bit about how this works. So much like weapon pickup, if they're dropped off, they become magnetized and you'll just pull them right in. However, in like areas of platforming and stuff like that, they won't be magnetized because I want you to use your platforming skills to get them. When you get these materials and stuff like that, you can find them in like mini set dressing items, which these are actually boulders for the moon level. So on Plemniba, there's crates and forklifts and vehicles and stuff like that that you can blow up and get the materials out of them. However, on the moon level, I was like, we could have this stuff on the moon, but it needs to not be things that look like they're man-made or made by a civilized being or something. So let's put them inside rocks. On the moon level, you can actually blow up a bunch of these soft rocks. Inside are the little goodies. So now that I got some goodies, in fact, it might, though I think my face is covering it, there's a little icon in the bottom left corner that shows like what you've collected. Say like +1 compressor, +1 blah blah blah. So let's show you this crafting system. Now, instead of just items and map, you have items, map, and crafting, which you can use. If you're using a mouse, you just click on the tab. If you're using a gamepad, you just move using the shoulder buttons. This is the crafting menu. These are the different materials that I have to build whatever I want. So I'm going to build, because I have 2 plasma nodes. I'm going to add 2 plasma nodes, and I'm going to add a repeater. Actually, I need one more plasma node. So that creates an assault rifle, and I'll actually preview it before you create it. So when you hit create, it's now in the list of things that you've created, and then when you exit, which, alright, since I already had assault rifles, that wasn't a really good example. That'll be a weapon you just picked up after you just created it. But say like I need, 3 scanner nodes, a fusion node, an absorber, an accelerator. That creates a fusion key. That's basically what's replacing the fusion nodes. So the fusion nodes are what you collect, but the fusion keys are what you need to open those locks and stuff like that. So there's actually a few extra materials that you need to open those doors. Now this might sound like a little bit too tedious to have to memorize all these little things that you have to craft and stuff like that. I still think it should be there in the form of a cheat code, more complex things that you can make that you don't have like instructions for, and you have to kind of discover the little cheat code thing. For things that that you probably need to create commonly, we had this menu of presets called blueprints. And how this works is you just kind of scroll through, and these are like different things that you can create. When the lock icon is red, that means you don't have the materials for it. However, when that lock icon is green, you do have the materials for it. So for example, I'm going to make a bouncer gun, and I can no longer make a rocket launcher because I just used the materials for that. And I'm going to make a sword. I didn't have to go through that whole little process of plugging in each little material to create something. It's a shortcut for all of this. So now when I exit, my new weapons are applied. Alright, so the last thing I wanted to show you guys is how these crafting materials are implemented in the platforming for the game, and then also just kind of how they work, how you earn them through combat. As I mentioned before, you can earn them by breaking a bunch of boxes and set dressing equipment for many of the more open areas, but you can also find many cool resources during platforming sections, and then you can also earn them through good combat, and I'll show you how that works in a bit. With the platforming, again, like as I mentioned before, I've made the platforming a lot more accessible to people who just kind of want to run straight through it. So I have these lily pads where you can just leapfrog through the whole thing. You don't have to do it that way. You can get cooler stuff if you're like a more skilled platformer. You can get some of these really cool pickups. You can get fusion nodes. You don't just have to get fusion nodes in areas of stealth. You can get them in the platforming areas too. And again, I kind of want most of these things to kind of require, like, you know, some decent platforming skills, like to be able to turn on a shield at the right time to get these items, or move through here, or be really good at maneuvering on walls, to be able to get whatever you need. Again, you don't have to get these, but if you're pretty good at platforming, you might get some cool things out of that. We put goodies all over these platforming sections now to really push them a little bit more than just making them a linear platform problem, and also kind of encourages players to really kind of explore what you can really do with this movement system. That's essentially how they're implemented in the game's platforming. As I mentioned before, the set dressing are now, though it is procedurally generated, they don't spawn under the floor, they spawn pretty much on the floor and stuff like that. These boulders you can break open and get really get neat collectibles and stuff like that as you hide from patrol units and whatnot. The other thing I wanted to show you is kind of like how they work in combat. So what you do is, this was the original design of the weapon locker, where you can like trade weapons and stuff like that and get something specific. Say you need a railgun for certain parts. However, this mesh design is no longer a weapon locker, it is now a shop. A shop is basically where you can trade credits earned through combat, which is like earned through score and whatnot. You can get a bunch of items and goodies that way. However, we do still have weapon lockers, they just look like this now. They still store weapons, they still work the way weapon lockers always work, which sometimes like you need a weapon for a specific section, like using a railgun or whatnot for sniping. Maybe if you want to do something a little bit more crafty or whatnot, you got these too. Just like in the platforming sections, you can also get scanner nodes and even fusion nodes at times. But they're a little bit more difficult to purchase. What you need to get those type of items is, it not only costs credits, but it also costs a token, which is a type of credit that can only be earned if you get an A or an S rank in fighting. When you get an A, you get 1. When you get an S, you get 5. So if you're really good at fighting, you can get a lot of cool things that way. Again, a lot of this stuff is just to give a little bit more leniency with areas that might be frustrating to some players, because we still like this whole kind of multi-genre thing. We do like that the game has platforming, but we definitely want the platforming to be challenging. However, for people who don't want to be challenged in platforming, they can still get through the game. For people who do, there's some reward for them. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Like, I just want to kind of use the moon level as a demonstration, because the moon level actually has quite a bit of this. Of all the levels that have platforming, the moon probably needs to make most use of these materials and resources. So I hope you really enjoyed this update. I know it's taking a really long time to get this patch out, but hopefully you can see why. I can't wait to have you have your hands on this, so you can really kind of test drive this stuff. Many of the new systems that we definitely have good intentions for them. They will need a little bit more time to balance and tweak and stuff like that. We really enjoyed your feedback, and we definitely enjoy getting more of that, so we can further continue to progress on polishing the product, as well as really thinking about what we're doing with the new content that are going to be coming in the next few months. So again, thank you very much. This is Kevin Bryant, aka Narlyteeth, signing off. Have a good week.
We, however, do have honor. So fight with honor. Fight for tomorrow. And fight for the chance to fix our mistake. We will find the hive, and we will crush it!